Welcome to Six Figure Coaches with Luke Charlton, where every week we interview a successful coach and break down their business. We take you behind the scenes in their marketing, advertising, and sales campaigns. We show you what's working. We show you their frameworks, their proven strategies, so you can implement them in your business to grow. Now let's bring on this week's guest. Here is your host, Luke Charlton. Hey, this is Luke Charlton here, and welcome back to another episode of the Six Figure Coaches Show. Super excited to have you here, and super excited to bring on this week's guest. Actually, I'm really excited because this guest, we're actually going to talk about what he learned from what some consider the wealthiest man in history. I know it's not Jeff Bezos, it's not Elon Musk or any of the current living sultans or anyone from Saudi Arabia or anything like that. It is someone that I'd never heard of before. I think he was an emperor. And our guest that's on today learned a lot from this man's story on how this man was speaking. Well, he calls it speaking the language of the gods on kind of manifesting, or sounds like manifesting what you want in your life. We're going to dive into that on who this particular person is, what some consider the wealthiest man in history. Just before we do that, what I want to do is remind you that this show it premieres every week inside the Hermit Hole. So if you want to watch these interviews before anyone else, before they go onto iTunes and Stitcher and Spotify, come into the Hermit Hole, go to thehermithole.com. That's a community where we're helping coaches grow their business. It's free. So all you have to do is go to thehermithole.com, come in there and hit this. This interview is one of the pieces of content that you get regularly inside that group. And if you're in there, as I said, you get access to this before it goes on any other platform. So with that being said, let me bring on today's guest. His name is Jeff Buehner. Jeff, welcome to today's interview. Now, just before we get into this story, actually, I want to know your story and how you actually came to coach, because it does tie in with, as I said, the wealthiest man. Is he considered the wealthiest man in history? You can go into him and how your story ties into him.
As far as I know, and by the way, thank you for having me on, Luke. I'm really excited about this. But as far as I know, Sultan Musa of Mali was the wealthiest man to ever walk the earth. And to put this in perspective, he lived in the 1300s. Mm-hmm. And he was wealthier than Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk, who you mentioned, combined.
Yeah, wow.
Way back then. And the way they know is because of the price of gold. One of the things he had tons and tons of was gold and also salt. So they can take today's values and kind of figure out how wealthy he was based on what he had.
Yeah.
And it's like you, I had never heard of this guy until someone brought him to my attention. And ever since I've thought, why wasn't I taught about him in school?
Mm-hmm. So where did he get all the gold from? How did that happen?
Well, his story is the best rags to riches story ever.
Well, tell us about it. I'm very curious. I don't know. I don't know anything about this guy, so I'm all ears. Yeah. Like I'm just focused in.
So he was a little boy when his father died, and he may have had a good life up to then. But as soon as his father died in West Africa in the 1300s, that condemned him and his mother to unbelievable poverty, the kind of poverty we can't even fathom. He had to steal food just to stay alive every day. And that put him in danger, of course, because if he got caught, which had happened many times, he would be severely beaten, and his life was at risk every day. Wow. What happened to him is he actually was murdered. Sounds funny, but because his story goes on, so obviously he survived it, but he fell in with an older thief who tried to kill him rather than share the spoils with him. And he had what we call a near-death experience, where his spirit body popped out of his dying physical body, and he met a man made of light and love. And when I read this part, I was already intrigued because I've always
Yeah.
had the question, what happens with death? And
Yep.
you know, one minute your loved one is there, and the next minute they're obviously the thing that gave them life is gone, even
Mm.
though the physical body is still there. But he met this man made of light who taught him basically how the world works, starting with who he is, his spirit body, the real him, who
Mm.
that is. And it's a creator, it's a literal child of God who is a creator. And you know, what do children do? They grow into a version of their parents over time.
Mm-hmm.
But we are creators, and he was taught how creation works. Or, in other words, as you look around and you see people who do stuff, the movers and shakers, they invent things, or they become somebody, or they become a champion, or
Mm-hmm.
they do anything really great. And as you look around, I mean, look at the skyscrapers, your cell phone, you realize people, some of them are unbelievable creators. Well, how are they doing it? And if you're not one of them, can you be? And
Mm.
the answer is yes. So little Musa, who was a nobody, a little junior thief, was taught how creation works. And that ties into this language of the gods, which sounds really weird to people, but I'll tell you a little story in a minute of what happened to me when I just started playing around with speaking this language of the gods. But when you speak it, the world obeys your commands. It just does. And Musa survived. He came back from this experience and used what he had been taught by the man made of light to just absolutely transform his life. So
Mm.
he went from extreme, unbelievable poverty to kind of extreme, unbelievable wealth,
Mm.
you know, and success. But he wasn't just wealthy. That's the other thing, Luke. He was an unbelievable success in every aspect of life. And the principles he learned, there are basically 7 of them, can be used in any aspect that's important to you. So his love life was the thing of fairy tales, you know, his generosity. That's really why he's famous. You can read
Mm.
about him in history books because of his generosity, what he did with his wealth. But the guy was just unbelievable.
That's amazing. And so was it him that documented his story? Is that how people know about it? Like how did that?
Yes, he was a prolific writer. He, well, first of all, he lifted the entire Mali kingdom out of poverty, not just himself.
Mm.
He cared about other people. He fell in love with this man made of light, and all he really wanted to do was serve him and live like him and be like him. And so he wanted to love and help and serve, and he
Mm.
did. But the way he lifted the Mali kingdom out of poverty, and by the way, he expanded it like triple the size of when he was living there, when he
Mm.
was a sultan. But the way he did it was, it's said of him that he started construction on a new school every Friday. This is
Wow.
before he was sultan. He was just a wealthy merchant, and he instructed people on the same things he had learned, taught instructors how to teach them to people, young and old.
Yeah.
And as they became successful in life, they passed on the principles, or 7 secrets, I call them, to
Mm.
others. And that's how the kingdom expanded and grew and became wealthy, happy, prosperous. It was just an
Mm.
unbelievable thing that he did.
Wow. Wow. And we'll get to those seven seven principles in a second. Because that's obviously the next logical question. But just curious, like how did he, maybe this ties in with that. How did he pull himself out of poverty? Like what specifically did he start to do once he met this man of light?
Well, the first 2 secrets are, number 1, he learned who he is. His spirit body, the real him, it's immortal. You never die. You can pop out of your physical body, but you just keep going. And by the way, I had this experience at 18 when I died in a rodeo and realized that I was still very much alive after that. My physical body was lying there in the dirt, but the real me was still going after it was over and after I was gone. And then I also came back. So when I read about this experience at the age of 33, I was primed to believe it, understand it, and kind of run with it.
Yeah, I've never experienced that before, but one of the things I like to do is go onto YouTube and watch like near-death experience stories.
Yeah, they're fun.
Yeah, they're and you can tell that people are not like making it up. It's just like there's literally thousands of them. Sorry,
some of them are.
Some are, but you can. Yeah.
When something like that happens, it's really quite easy to weed out the ones who are kind of faking it, and you can tell the real ones. And the real ones are all very, very similar in nature. But anyway, that's a different story.
Right.
I kind of want to tell you about how I came to learn about Sultan Musa of Mali.
Yeah, tell me.
Because if he was a creator, and if all these people who build skyscrapers and create and invent unbelievable things are in one category, I was in the other category, clear on the other side of the scale. I was a concrete contractor. I didn't believe that I could do anything more than just work, manual labor, make my money. I couldn't see myself succeeding beyond being a good concrete guy. But I wasn't happy. I wasn't at all happy. Friends of mine, I'd gone to university, friends that I had gone to university with that I didn't consider to be really that much smarter than me, maybe a little smarter, or that much more talented, or that much more motivated in terms of working hard. I didn't know anyone who was working harder than me. They were driving around in nice cars and living in nice homes and making a lot more money. And I was working myself silly and barely making ends meet. And it was eating at me. I thought, I want to do better, but I simply had no idea how you do that. None. In fact, I was so in debt, Luke. You kind of rob Peter and to pay Paul in the construction business. And now they have laws against mixing money. But back then, I had already spent the money from 3 jobs back. And now I'm trying to finish this current job to get paid so I can pay the concrete bill for the last job. Wow. I was in deep and no way to get out. But here's what happened. I was doing a job for this unbelievable couple. They were older, silver-haired, but very elegant and just wonderful people, obviously very wealthy. The home I was working on was in a really expensive neighborhood, really expensive home, and they were doubling the size of it.
Yeah.
But they were also super nice and engaging, and they would talk to us. And one day the lady was talking to me, asking me about my aspirations, and it kind of devolved into complaining. I told her, I want to be like you guys, but I can't. I'll never have that. And I started to complain. And right in the middle of that complaining, she turned around and just walked away without a word. And I was so embarrassed. Obviously I thought, here you have an opportunity to talk to somebody wealthy and you blow it by dumping your problems on her. So instead of learning, I thought I'd blown it. But a few minutes later, she came back and handed me a manuscript, told me to read it that night, bring it back to her the next day. And obviously I wasn't going to do it because I'd get up at 5:30 in the morning, go home at like 7:30 at night, and just wolf down my dinner, take a shower, and crash so I could do it the next day. But I happened to read the first page of that document that told the story of Sultan Musa of Mali. And I stayed up the rest of the night reading it and taking notes. And it changed my life,
Wow.
100%, just changed. Literally, I became a new person from learning these 7 secrets, and I got different results. It was just an amazing thing. Well,
So,
I'm not going to leave it there, because people will want to know, well, what do you mean by that? When you say you transformed your life, give us
yeah,
an
yeah.
example. So I'll give you one, and this is just in the finance realm. I went from being a 60, give or take $1,000 a year concrete guy to making hundreds of thousands a month in a new business that just came to me from out there, that fit me perfectly, fit my
Mm.
personality. I was really good at it right off the bat, and it just fell into my lap. And I made a whole bunch of other changes using the 7 secrets. And the
Mm-hmm.
thing to realize, Luke, and I know I want to slow down here and let you ask some questions so that we cater to your
No,
audience.
it's all good. I'm enthralled, so keep going.
I want them to know about this, because it is the thing that probably, I'll just say, one of the most important gifts that have ever come to me in life is these 7 secrets in the writings of Sultan Musa of Mali.
Yes.
So go ahead.
No, I'm interested. We'll get into 7 secrets now, but one quick question. What was the conversation like the next day when did you follow up with that lady and tell her what your thoughts were?
Well, she knew if I read it, she knew what it was going to mean. But I just remember, I came on the job site. She came out of the house with a little smile on her face, and I just hugged her. We hardly even talked. I just hugged her and hugged her,
Yeah,
because
wow.
she had given me the key to a successful life. And
So,
she knew it. She knew
yeah.
she.
And have you ever followed up with her since, all these years later? Do you know where she
No, because this is the weird part. People don't understand this, but if I can explain it, it's like, yes, in that moment, I had knowledge that made me really excited, gave me a lot of hope for my future.
Yeah.
But I hadn't done anything yet. Nothing had changed. I wasn't 100% positive that these secrets would work. And so I finished that job and kind of moved on. And I've tried since to go find that home. And I haven't been able to do it. I've poured thousands of driveways and patios and pool decks for people. And so I
Yeah.
haven't been able to find her since.
Yeah, wow. Isn't that crazy? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So let's go into, I'm curious to know what the 7 secrets. I think you mentioned one was in terms of who you really are, in terms of your being, consciousness.
Yep.
And so that's the first one. So there's 6 more, is that correct?
Yeah, there's 6 more. Now, the most important of the 7, in terms of, once you understand the first 3, the rest of them are kind of how do you use what you just learned in the first 3. So I'm going to kind of focus on the first 3 here.
Okay.
And then obviously I've written a book that I give away. I call it the almost free book, because we charge $2 for it.
Yep.
And I'll tell you why we've come to charge $2. That will get more into the other part of marketing and
Okay, cool.
and
Yep.
things I've learned over the last years. But and your audience can get this book for $2. And
Okay.
in the book are all 7 secrets, including the third one, which is the language of the gods. And
Okay.
this is everything kind of evolves around this language. The thing to remember is that you are a creator, and you create every day. So even if it's something small and silly, like creating a bowl of cereal with milk poured over it and a spoon stuck in it, ready to eat, you created that. And there was a process that you went through to create a bowl of cereal, or to create yourself nicely dressed, or anything that you do. You're creating it using a process. Well, people who are creating big things, new technology, new machinery, they're just using the exact same process in a larger scale.
Mm. Yeah.
But you are a creator, and this is the part I tell people, the quicker you just wrap your head around this, the happier you're going to be. Your spirit body is a literal child of God. And that's meant in an absolutely literal sense. You've got a spirit father and a spirit mother. And I won't go deeper than that right now, but when you accept that, a whole bunch of the questions that you've been asking in life, am I worth anything? And what am I doing here? Is there any meaning to this? What about when it's over? Is it just, black screen from there on out? All of those questions melt away just by understanding the first real principle that Sultan Musa of Mali learned. Well, once you have that, then you're like, okay, I'm a creator. Teach me. How do I use what is innate in me to create a better life? All right, so then you come to the second principle, is basically wrapped up in, you have two bodies, a spirit body and a physical body, but you also have two minds. You have a conscious mind, and you have what Musa called the veiled mind. We can relate to that because we've all been taught about the subconscious mind. So we have a framework to understand this. But it's the veiled mind that is running the show. Whatever the veiled mind thinks your role is, or in other words, thinks you should be, that is the way it's going to be, period. You are not tough enough to stop your life from going in the direction and ending up the way your subconscious mind believes it's supposed to go and end up. It's just going to happen. The thing is, you've put yourself exactly where you are. And some people don't like that because they've got, problems, and they can point to other people and say, no, this guy cheated me.
Exactly.
That's why I'm here. Or, mom wasn't very nice to me as a kid, and that's why I don't have confidence. Okay, whatever. Yes, people worked on you, but you chose how to respond to anything that has happened to you. And put yourself exactly where you are by speaking the language of the gods. You're doing it right now. But here's the good news. If by speaking the language of the gods, you've put yourself where you are, you can also put yourself where you want to be rather easily. Now, of course, there's going to be work and effort involved in getting somewhere else, but it's all going to be work and effort that is aligned with the life you want. So it's going to be exciting and fun and rewarding. So as soon as you learn to speak the language of the gods, your life becomes a riot. It becomes fun. There is no more fun way to live than understanding these principles and living by them.
Okay, cool.
So I covered a lot there without covering specifics, but we can get into the language of the gods if you want to as well.
Yeah, well, I'm curious, like if someone has a certain, subconscious view about themselves, right, and the reality, and that's a big part of what drives them, as you said, restricts them. How do they break through those chains, in other words, those limiting beliefs about who they are?
Well, what's funny, you just have to learn, because we've been taught that all of your subconscious beliefs were formed by a certain age, whether that's 7, 11, scientists, again, they're always changing what they think, but they're very sure in every moment that what they think is absolutely right. And what they thought a couple of years ago is, obsolete.
That's true.
It's all obsolete. You are forming subconscious beliefs right now. And the process for forming and setting a subconscious belief has never changed. It's going on right now the same way it was happening when you were 5. And once you understand the process, you can seize control of it. You can so easily. Even though it goes against your training, you can still do it very easily. And once you know how to set a brand new subconscious belief, it wipes out the old belief. It's like throwing open the shutters and letting the sunshine in. The darkness is just gone. You don't have to do anything to heal your old subconscious, or whatever happened to get you to believe a certain thing about yourself subconsciously. You just form a new belief, and then it's like a robot with a new program. That new program begins to run, and you get different results. You feel differently about things that happen, and it just runs.
Interesting. And so with your clients, what's the typical scenario that they are coming to see you in? Like, do you position yourself as like a manifestation type coach? Or like, are they coming to you specifically for wealth, or is it like, why do they specifically come to see you?
Well, people in America have problems if they haven't learned to codify this process of creation. Then they're living in a state where life is happening to them, and they don't understand it, and they don't know how to change it. But it begins with understanding how habitual you are. And you can start with, it's even easier to see it in other people, but you can start with, when you wake up in the morning, you start thinking the same thoughts every morning, like clockwork. Those thoughts produce the same old habitual feelings. Your subconscious mind is all tuned into, your thoughts and feelings, which are telling it who you are and what you expect. It then goes to work keeping your life congruent with what it believes you're supposed to be. So you've got to learn to throw a giant monkey wrench into that process, where you change dramatically what you're thinking about, how you're feeling, how your subconscious mind hears, your thoughts and feelings, and then it goes and changes your circumstances and situations. And this is where the fun begins, because this isn't just about identify the life you want, commit to it, start thinking about it, feeling it, and then, if you work hard enough, you can get it. No, there's an element of magic here, because when you speak the language of the gods in the right way, you're commanding your subconscious mind to change your life, to go bring you the opportunities, to find the open doors, to bring people, new interactions, new videos, new knowledge, and it will go get. Everything you want lives in a magical place called out there somewhere. The next $1 million idea that would work for you, it already exists. It's out there somewhere. Your next sweetheart who would be perfect for you, he is out there somewhere. The trick is, how do you get that information or that person or that video to come to you? And that's what it's all about. You can do it, and you can do it very quickly.
Is that what the language of the gods is?
Yes.
Okay.
So the language of the gods, Luke, is how the conscious, well, here's the question. If your subconscious mind believes certain things about you, and whatever it believes is the way it's going to be, who told it what to believe? And the answer is, you did. You told it, and you're telling it right now. But it doesn't listen to the words that are coming out of your mouth. And it doesn't, it's aware of them. It's even feeding some of them to you. It's aware of your thoughts, but it's not listening to your thoughts in terms of obeying them. The language of the gods is feelings. Feelings is the language of the gods. It's the language that when you die and you are presented in front of the man made of light, you don't have to move your lips.
Mm.
You will speak in a different language and you'll be understood. You'll be totally transparent. This language of feelings is who you are. So you can't lie about it in front of a spirit being. But let's skip that for now and go back to how you speak it to your subconscious mind. Oh, and
Yep.
by the way, Sultan Musa of Mali is also the author of the fairy tale Aladdin and the Magic Lamp.
Oh, really?
We think of Antoine Galland as the author, but he was absolutely honest. He said he didn't write the story, he just translated it from an ancient Arabic script, a text, and it was Sultan Musa of Mali who wrote it. Now, think about this. He also wrote prolifically. He wrote the fairy tale, and then he wrote a complete tutorial on how to speak the language of the gods. Everything he learned from the man made of light, it was all written down, but Antoine Galland got it all, but he only published the fairy tale. Even though he himself went on to experience tremendous success and even fame, he was terrified of publishing that second parchment. He literally thought that his life could be ended, but his career for sure would be ended if he published it. So he just locked it up, passed it down generation to generation, and kept pretty quiet about it.
And so and eventually got released after that?
Well, I don't know, because I've never seen it published. The only thing I've ever seen was the manuscript that this silver-haired lady gave to me. And I don't know if she was a direct descendant of Galland. I have no idea. I haven't been able to talk to her since or find her, and I'm pretty sure she's passed on by now.
Okay. Wow.
But well, you got to understand this Galland guy, don't judge him, because this was the 1600s and people were still being put to death for the crime of heresy. You think you have to be careful what you say today to stay out of trouble. Back then it was, big pile of logs and burned at the stake. So
wow.
He was careful and probably smart to be.
So this manuscript that you got, it wasn't an officially published document?
No, it was a pile of papers. It was like English translation of ancient writings. That's
wow.
what
And did you have to give it back to her, or she let you have?
Wanted it back. And again, this is the days before, this is 1993. I didn't have a copy machine in my house.
Yeah.
Well, I probably just got a cell phone, and that was a big deal. One of those great big brick things.
Yeah.
So we just didn't have the technology. Looking back, she asked me not to copy it, so I probably wouldn't have. But looking back, I think, God, I wish I had. I wish I had a copy of it word for word. But all I've got are my notes.
Okay, and that's what you've written the book from?
Yeah.
And your experience, obviously, yeah. So
the book tells my experience. I'm not trying to recreate that manuscript.
No.
It's telling my experience with learning the 7 secrets, and of course I outline what they are, and what happened to me when I began to practice them.
Okay.
And just
okay,
to
cool. Yeah, I'd love to. I'm gonna get that book. I think it sounds. Yeah, we'll talk about like where to get it at the end of the interview.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of let's go into the marketing and like your actual business model and that now, and then we'll come back to that at the end. Now, so you're selling coaching, is that correct? Around these,
we have like 4 basic products that we sell, starting with the book. And I'm basically trying to give the book away to anyone who will read it. It'll change your life, just the book. But the book is heavy on concepts. It goes into the 7 secrets and what they are and helps you understand them. And that's all I had, by the way. The Sultan's writings were light on technique. But for 28 years, I've had to develop my own games and tricks and techniques and hacks to apply the 7 secrets. And so I have a lot of that I teach people, and it's necessary because you're trained from the time you were little. You were told who you are, what group you're involved with, what group you belong to, how we think as a group, what we say, what we don't say, what we do, what we don't do. You're programmed as a little child, and that's fine. But now you're the adult, and you get to decide who you want to be. And you're in charge of that. You can change your role, pick a new role, and change your life anytime you want. All you have to do is identify that role and then tell your subconscious mind in the language it responds to and hears and obeys, and it will kind of take it from there. It will lead you in a new direction headed for that goal, and there's nothing that can stop it once you do that.
And you do that through feelings primarily, is that correct?
Feelings is the language. And we're all focused on, like, I have so many clients tell me when I teach them the basics, they're like, wait, how can my subconscious mind know that I'm not happy in this type of a relationship? I talk about it all the time, but I ask them, how do you feel about your relationship? Well, bad. Okay. That's what your subconscious mind is hearing, and it will keep it bad. Well, why does it? Because it's not a passionate entity that loves you. It's more, you have to think of it more like a mechanism, a computer that can be programmed.
It takes instructions,
And then that program runs, and it's going to run until you change it. But you can change it by changing your feelings. Oh, now here's something interesting, Luke. People are like, wait a minute, so I have to change my feelings about my relationship for my relationship to change. But my relationship is bad. So how can I feel any other way about my relationship?
Yeah, that was actually my question. Yeah.
So obviously it rules out focusing on your current reality to change the way you feel. So what do you use to change your feelings about your relationship? Here comes another secret. This is, we all have a superpower. And this superpower is your ability to imagine and pretend. You've learned everything you know by observing and imitating and imagining doing that and getting the same results as someone else, and pretending literally to be other people at times and feeling what it's like to have their life instead of your life. So pretending, and you were a born pro at this. You were a born pretender, but you were also taught to quit doing it. You were taught to quit using your superpower by well-meaning people. They needed you to fit into their program at school, church, work. Your parents wanted you to fit into the program, and your superpower to not just pretend, but pretend with a certain amount of intensity stood in the way of the program. So you were actually scolded, even punished if you did it too long. You were made to quit doing it. But you're the adult now, and you can dust it off, and that's where your power lies. And that's what I teach people.
And so when people come to you, what are you typically working on with them? Like, what do they want generally?
There's only about 8 aspects of life, but most people are only really focused on maybe 3 to 5 that aren't good, that they want to change. And one of them, if you're in America, welcome to the realities of money and finance. So almost everybody has that one. But then health, relationships, maybe relationships first and then health, but those two are like, 2 and 3 real close together. Then people seek meaning. They want to do something in their life where they leave a legacy or they're helping people. So those are kind of the 4 main ones. But then there's a 5th one that is important, and that is emotional healing. So everybody went through childhood. And let's say you're in the 98th percentile of people who wasn't a cheerleader, wasn't the most popular girl in high school, or, the best athlete, tall, handsome kid who was mature and just had it all together. Those are the 2% people. Almost everyone else went through their childhood feeling inadequate, unimportant, unloved. And you carried that into adulthood, but the emotional holds are still there. And you can see them in people. You get with some people who are maybe abused and God, they just can't get past it. They can't give it up. They can't move on because they think of it as who they are. As soon as you learn these principles, you realize who you really are and that you have the right and the ability and the power to change the role that you're playing here in this realm anytime you want to. And that's all you're doing, by the way. You're just playing a role. Your subconscious mind is committed to that role and it will support that role so that you have some continuity and can learn from playing that role. Luke, people who know you can expect that you will say certain things and act a certain way in given circumstances.
Yep.
And you don't surprise them by being a completely different person the next day.
Right.
So there's continuity.
Yep.
But you still have the ability and power to change your role when you want to. And then people have to accept it because, you're a new person.
Yeah.
And they may not even like it, but they
same
will accept
person, different role. So yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Same spirit.
Yeah. And so how do you currently get your clients at the moment? They come through the book mainly, or how does your marketing, just so we can have an idea of how you market your business at the moment?
Okay, so this is where we get into, I started this 3 years ago, not teaching people. I've been sharing this message with people for 28 years. But kind of one-on-one, somebody would be referred to me, they'd come over to my office or sit in the living room.
Yep.
And 3 years ago, I was getting ready to retire on my farm in Belize. And I had a really strong feeling that I couldn't do that until I shared this gift that had been given to me with a lot more people, like millions of people, not 100 people or 1,000 people. And so I didn't know how to do that. I didn't know anything about how you market online. I still don't, to be honest. I've hired the people who know.
Yeah.
But then I felt that commitment to do it and just used I took my own medicine. I used my own program to bring the right people into my life. But we started out doing a lot of Facebook ads, like $80,000 a month in Facebook ads.
Wow.
That was stressful because then I had to sell something and pay myself back.
Yeah, that's a lot of money to spend on ads. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, it evolved. And this is one of the words of advice I'd give people. You don't have to start by spending $80,000 a month on ads.
No, for the coach listening, don't spend $80,000.
Don't let that hold you back. I had a career of, in all kinds of different things, of vending business, concrete business, and then really land development and building homes on property that people buy from me. That's kind of where a lot of my money has come from lately. But so that was something I could do, but we were spending, $80,000 a month to talk to maybe 400 or 500 people. Not very efficient. And we haven't quit spending ads or spending money on ads, but we've added things in that have been really important, like doing podcasts, speaking engagements, things that I didn't really have in mind in the beginning, but they've been important add-ons.
Yep. So you do podcasting, speaking, and in terms of your advertising, campaign, what is it that you're actually advertising? Is it the book or something else?
Yeah, we advertise people we get the information out to where they will download the digital book for $2.
Okay.
Then they have that information, and that's kind of the starting place for them, but it's also the starting place for us because we know that they're going to hit the same wall I hit, where you have these concepts that are really exciting. They give you hope, make you feel expectant, but then your quote unquote real world is still there, and it taps you on the shoulder and reminds you of all your problems, your bad relationship, your job that you may not like, whatever. Yep. And so it's easy to get sucked back into feeling bad. And then what are you telling your subconscious mind? So there are some real tricks to changing how you feel in the face of what's going on in your quote unquote real world. And in fact, in defiance of it. And so we have to help people beyond just give them the concepts. And so we have everything we offer is dirt cheap for the value in it. Like that book, it's worth $1 million. We sell it for $2, or you can go on Amazon and get a hard copy for $19.99. But a ton of value in that. And then we offer a challenge, which is a 5-day challenge, and I give good training in this challenge. It's not just fluff to try to get them to buy something else. I give those challenges as though that's the last time I'm going to see these people. Because about 60% of them, it is the last time I'm going to see them. They're going to take that much and go try to do it. Sometimes they come back later, but not everybody moves on with me. So we do the challenge, and that's only $27. So it's dirt cheap for what I'm giving them. Then we have a program for the people, maybe 30 to 40% who want to really delve into this. And I take that group on, and I take responsibility for their success. And I teach them a weekly lesson and work with them, give them assignments. Really what I'm teaching, I'm telling them exactly what I do to achieve daily success and daily moving towards the life that I want. And by the way, everything on my dream sheet 10 years ago is reality now. Even though I never used the words manifesting or law of attraction.
I was very hesitant to use that word in the beginning. I didn't want to, because that word is, has those connotations with it, which I wish I didn't use it at the beginning because,
well, only because manifesting coaches have done damage. They kind of taught
exactly
people the truth. Like focus on things that get you excited. Great. But then what? And so it generated people lying on the couch with their eyes shut real tight, trying to think good things into their life. It doesn't quite work like that.
It's wishing versus taking action and doing something. So,
but it does work. And so you've just got to have the other half, the understanding of why thinking about things that make you feel good, why that's going to change anything and how it's going to change anything. And then it works. But you got to have that part of the equation.
It's not just wishing. So do you mind if I ask what you can say no to this is fine, the price point of that program? So it goes $2, then $27 for the challenge, and then you've got a more in-depth coaching program. Do you want to mention the price point of that one?
Yeah, the price point on that one is higher because I'm spending my time. Tomorrow I've got a meeting, and we run several groups at a time. So I'm really selling my time. And I hope this doesn't sound arrogant, but at this place in my life, I don't have to do this. I could go retire. I'm fine financially. So if I'm going to sell my time, I got to be paid for it.
Of course.
I wish I could give it away for free. I really do, but it doesn't work out. So people have told me to sell that accelerator program. It's the Language of the Gods Accelerator program for $20,000, $10,000. And I just refuse to do that. I'm selling it for the minimum I can when I look at the costs of getting people to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's $3,500, and that's the most expensive thing I offer.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah.
And
That
then,
is. Yeah.
well, to help people who, the 3,500 doesn't fit right now, we have a do-it-yourself program for around $1,000.
Yep.
And a lot of people, by the time they get to where they're offered that, almost everybody who's offered it takes it, because it's just,
It's no
like
brainer.
my finances change so quickly that by the time you've gone through a challenge and you really understand what this is, $1,000,
Yeah, exactly.
it's nothing.
Yeah, exactly. They get the value. That's interesting. So basically, your business, like the marketing process, is you advertise the book. It sounds like then you do a challenge to people on your list. Is that correct? So
Yes.
you use the book to build your list. You do a
Correct.
challenge for $27, and for those people, then you offer the $3,500 program. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. You just repeat that over and over again.
Yeah, that's basically it. Now, we've come to this program over 3 years. We have changed everything. We've gone away from things. We've come back to some of the things, but changed exactly how we did it. And one word of advice I'd give anybody that's going to do this is be willing to start without knowing what you're doing. Just start. I think of two things that the experts told me in the beginning that were wrong. One of them was they wanted me to know my audience. They called it my who. You got to know your who. Well, you can't know your who until you get the message out, and then your who shows up and reveals themselves. Now you know your who.
Yeah.
But you can't know in advance who's going to respond to your message. The second one was they also got things in reverse order. Like they would tell me, don't worry too much about your message. You can work on that and develop that as you go. And I would say, no, the opposite is true. You got to know your message. You have to know what you have to offer people, and it can't be BS. You've got to have something that, that is real to offer them. And we have almost no returns. In that accelerator program, I've had one return. It was one lady who didn't succeed at it. So I hired her to be a consultant because I wanted to know why. There's one person out of all of the other people who isn't experiencing success. How can that be? And I hired her to teach me how I missed her, how I let her fall through the cracks.
That's interesting. Yeah. Wow,
but if you start teaching something that's just baloney, you're going to have so many refunds. It's just not going to be fun. People will be calling you out all day long, and that will be your new life.
Yeah. Yes. Don't sell things that don't work.
You know that one too.
I think most of the coaches listening to this, even if they're just getting started, like they know what they have works. They just might need a few more case studies under their belt, but they're not selling things that are bogus generally. So if you are, don't listen to this podcast.
Well, it's okay to pick a topic you want to become an expert at and then go learn, become an expert, and then put yourself out there to teach people and help people.
And it's okay to be transparent in the beginning as well, saying like, hey, you've got this program that you're just launching, you're looking for your initial case studies, but don't go out and pretend that, don't make false promises. In other words, I always say be transparent and tell people, hey, as when I first say 10 foundation case studies, you get it for this discount, like huge discount or whatever it is. So you can make that your inexperience a benefit to attracting people to your program initially. So
that's a great point, Luke. Let the people who succeed at your program sell your program.
Right. Exactly right.
We just had another one where one of the young ladies in our program had something come to her from out there that just launched her into fame, and she'd like to get into the sports broadcasting world, and all of a sudden she has ESPN and everybody else calling her.
Wow.
But, now she is out there with some fame and talking to people, and then she talks about me and the 7 secrets and the language of the gods.
Yeah.
And because they all ask, how did this happen for you?
Yeah.
She just tells them. So that brings us more people.
Yeah, I bet it does. Yeah.
You got to let it spread that way. You got to be willing to let it spread that way.
Yes. Yeah. Definitely the organic way. As you get, for the coaches listening, as you get more successful, you will get more and more organic, traffic referrals coming to you as you build, as you get more successful, your clients get more successful as well. Okay, cool, Jeff. So I'm interested to know, actually, before I'll finish with one question. Let's pretend, and I ask this of every guest, you're standing at the top of a mountain and you've got all these coaches below you. You can only shout kind of like one thing to help them to become more successful. What is that one thing?
Be humble. Just be willing to not know everything in the beginning, to have to learn, have to rely on other people, to hire people who know how to do the things you don't know how to do. And by the way, you don't have to pay everybody. You can partnership with people. There's a lot of different ways to build without spending a ton of money. But if you have the money, be careful, but humility. Just be willing to learn as you go, figure it out as you go, be willing to be told things like, hey, the people you think are responding to your message aren't the people that are responding. And here's the stats, here's the proof. Hey, be willing to adapt. Don't just stick with, no, I know who I'm looking for. Adapt. Yeah. Humility. Just be humble.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, I think we coaches, we get stuck in, here's who I want to work with. And there's like tunnel vision, right? Where sometimes, our offer is actually better suited to this particular market, whoever that is resonating with it the most. So I think that's great advice. So Jeff, where can our listeners and watchers go to learn more about you and also grab your book as well? I want to know what the link is because I want to go get the book too.
Okay. Yeah, go to sultans7secrets.com. You can download the book and you could be speaking the language of the gods by tonight. And you could be speaking it all day tomorrow. And I promise you, this will change your life. So it's Sultan's 7 Secrets, the word Sultans with an S at the beginning and the end, the number 7, and then secrets also with an S at the beginning and an S at the end. So sultans7secrets.com. You can download that digital book for $2. And we never did discuss why. We started out just giving it away for free, but we found that charging $2 weeds out a group of people who are never going to pay for anything, and that's fine. But we want to take people further into this so that they really succeed. So that's the group we're looking for.
Interesting.
But $2, and then you'll also start getting information as soon as you have that book and you're on our list. We'll let you know of the challenges that are coming up. We'll let you know about the workshops I do, any events. And of course, eventually, when you qualify, if you've gone through a challenge, then we'll let you know about the accelerator program.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, I'm on the sales page now. This looks really good. And got lots of 5-star reviews on Amazon too. Jeff, let me come back here. I'm looking at this sales page. I'm getting distracted because I want to grab this book. Jeff, thanks so much for coming on, sharing your story. I'm again surprised I'd never heard of this guy before, but his story sounds amazing, and I cannot wait to read your book, to read more about him. Thanks for coming on and sharing, as I said, your story, sharing what makes you a successful coach. And I look forward to seeing your success and continuing our relationship as well. So thanks for coming on.
Same. Thank you, Luke. Really